and welcome back for episode number 160 of the weekly playback. It is officially autumn, I think starting tomorrow, actually Monday, not today, but I'm wearing this shirt to commemorate the start of my favorite season. I'm absolutely obsessed with autumn. I mean, who isn't? It makes all the really harsh winters and the really hot and humid summers totally worth it, because without those, we would not have the most perfect autumns here in upstate New York. I absolutely love them. So anyway, I have 3 games to discuss. I have a huge culling update and other stuff to talk about. So let's just get started. Let's talk about Point Galaxy. This is a 2025 game for 1 to 5 players designed by Molly Johnson, Robert Melvin, and Sean Stankiewicz. And the art is done by Dylan Mangini, and it's published by Flat Out Games. And this is a game which I had backed on Kickstarter. And I recently played a 4-player game of this. Now, this is a card drafting and end game bonuses and just a set collection kind of game. So for this game, when you do the setup, you have these cards which are double-sided. So on one side, you'll see suns, moons, and asteroids. Let me see if I can find an asteroid. Nope. Maybe on this deck. Oh, here, or actually wormholes. There's some wormholes, and here are some asteroids. So on the one side, the dark side, you'll see those, and on the other side, you will see planets. So the other side, which is a light blue color, is just filled with different types of planets, and that's all that there is on the other side. So for setup, you're going to shuffle all of the cards together, and then you're going to create a 3x3 grid for a 3-player setup. And I think, so yeah, I wonder if it's the, a market of 9 total cards. And the top 3 cards are going to have the suns face up, and the all the rest of the cards will be planet face up. And then your draw piles will also be this side face up, the darker side that has the sun and the moons and the asteroids and wormholes as well, it looks like. So you will have to remove a certain number of cards depending on player count, so that ensures that the entire deck will be, you'll go through the entire deck and there won't be any cards left over. Everyone is going to start with a starting sun card, so the start is indicated by the S, and you can choose which side of your starting card you want, and you'll see that there's 2 different planet types on each side of the starting sun. So on your turn, you're going to draft 2 cards, and you can, when you draft a card, they can be from anywhere. They don't need to be adjacent to each other or anything like that. But if you draft a card from the 2nd or 3rd row, so not the top row that is the dark side up, then you can choose to immediately shift down the cards, or you can take both of the cards you want before replenishing. So when you do shift down the cards from the very top row to the 2nd or whatever, when you just shift down all the cards that were on the top row with the dark side are going to flip over to the planet side. So only the top row will have moons and suns and asteroids and wormholes for you to collect. Everything on the 2nd and 3rd row will have planets for you to collect. So you are creating solar systems. You are creating sets of solar systems. And each solar system can consist of a sun, it can consist of planets, moons, wormholes, and asteroids. So just for an example, so your starting sun, the sun is always going to be at the top of your solar system. However, you can start a new solar system without a sun, and you can place the sun later. So let's suppose you draft a planet and the planet doesn't go well into the current solar system you have. You can then just start a new solar system with it, and then hopefully draft a sun that will go well with that solar system for you to add later. But essentially, it's going to be a sun and then a combination of planets, moons, whatever. And if you do get asteroids, asteroids have to be placed above the sun. And you can only have 1 set of asteroids, 1 card of asteroids per solar system. So you can't stack up asteroids, multiple asteroids in 1 solar system. And these are just going to give points to whoever has the most of these at the end of the game. And then there's also a 2nd and 3rd place for asteroids. And I'll explain how wormholes and all of that work in a minute. But basically, your sun is going to tell you how you're going to score that solar system. But the other cards in the solar system will also score as well at the end of the game, even if you don't have a sun. And we'll talk about how that happens. But this solar system, for example, you'll get 2 points for every pair of purple and orange planets that you have there. This one would give you 2 points for every pair of wormhole and special research cards. So there's planets that have special research symbols on them. So I'll just show you an example, like this one. So that is a special type of research symbol. So different planets will score for different things. Like for different solar systems will score for different things. So I had one which I needed all of the planets. Unfortunately, I was 1 planet shy of completing that, but that one you need a planet of each color. Now, when you're adding planets to your solar system, they have to be in either ascending or descending order. So, you know, they have to be in in sequential order. That's what I should say. That's the correct word I'm looking for. Sequential order. So, you know, it can go from like 1 to 3 to 5 to 7, for example, or it can go from 7 to 6 to 5, you know, down to 1, whatever. So you can skip numbers. The lowest number is 1 and the highest number is 7 that you will see on these planet cards. So you can skip numbers, but you cannot have, like, for example, 7 and then 6 and then 7 again, unless you use a wormhole. So if you happen to draft a wormhole, you can add that on top of a planet card and then start a new set of numbers. Now, I will say that the wormhole explanation for how the wormhole card works is a little bit confusing. So it says here, wormhole cards may be placed in any solar system. They may be placed above, tucked behind, or below on top of any existing card sequence, or may be used to start a solar system. When placed, a wormhole card reverses the pull of gravity, and the number sequence is reset above and below the wormhole card. The placement of a wormhole card in the sequence allows a player to have 2 separate number sequences. This break allows previously skipped numbers to be included in the solar system. Now, when it says it reverses the pull of gravity, that to me indicates that, okay, when you start a new sequence after a wormhole has been placed, it has to go in the reverse order as the previous sequence. So if you were starting from high to low and then you placed a wormhole, now you would have to go from low to high. But the way that we interpreted this rule, or after checking BGG, it seems that that's not the case, that you can, you know, after placing a wormhole, even if you have from high to low numbers for planets above the wormhole, you can still go from high to low on the planets below the wormhole. That to me doesn't really make sense based with the wording of the description of the wormhole. So I feel like they really should have shown an example for how the wormhole works and, you know, just been a little bit more clear about how the sequencing of the numbers should work after you place a wormhole. So if anyone is watching this and knows for certain how the wormholes should work, that would be great to know. So basically you are drafting 2 cards and placing them somewhere in your tableau. So you can place them in an existing solar system, start a new solar system, etc. Again, planets have to be in sequential order, but you can skip certain numbers. I already talked about asteroids. Now moons will go next to planets of a matching color in order for you to score them. I mean, you can place them next to planets that they don't match with, but you just won't be able to score them in the end. So if you really just have to take a card and nothing is available that is really going to help you, you might take a moon and just stick it somewhere and hope that maybe the next card you place on top of the moon will meet its scoring requirement. So for example, here is a moon card. So there's 2 different types of moon cards. There are moon cards which will show you a slash like that, which means that if you have a blue planet either above or below this card will score 2 points. So this is going to get stacked with your planets. It's not going to be next to your planets. It's going to be stacked with your planets. So for example, if I place this moon on top of the 2 and then I had this level 3 planet, because this planet is either blue or green, then this card would score. It would give me 2 points when I'm scoring my moons, because this planet can be either a blue or a green planet. So moons also go into your column of your solar system. These types of moons, you need to have a matching planet both above and below it in order to score it. So that's why it has the plus symbol instead. So I think we've talked about all the different cards. So we've talked about planets, suns, moons, wormholes, and asteroids. Now there is a planet X that you might come across, which is basically just a wild planet. However, it has no color. So if you place this, this will help you complete a number sequence because it can be any number, but it does not have a color. So it will not help you to fulfill the requirement of a moon if you place a moon on top of this planet, for example. So those are all the different types of cards. So you're going to continue playing until the game end triggers. So the game end will trigger once you can no longer refill the deck after the last player has taken their turn. So then you will have your solar systems and you will score your solar systems. But before we get to that, let's talk about these rocket tokens. So there's going to be a certain number of these placed out, and you will be able to collect a special scoring rocket if you have 5 rocket symbols on your planets. So as soon as you have 5, you can take one of these special scoring rocket ships. And if you have 10, then you can collect your second one, and so on. So these rocket ships have a bunch of different scoring goals for you to complete. So for example, this one you'll get 1 point per asteroid card you have. This one you'll get 1 point, it looks like, for every 2 purple planets you have, and so on. So these are different scoring rockets that you will be putting out a certain number of before the start of the game, depending on player count. So once the game is over and you go to scoring, then you have your handy dandy score sheet, which will come in handy, of course. So first you're going to score your suns. So you'll score points from your sun's cards if you had a sun card in your solar system, and gain points for that. Then you'll score for unique planets. So you will score for each solar system that has planets based on the number of uniquely numbered planets. Add those points together and write the total in the planet's card space. So if you had a total of 7 different unique numbered planets, which in this case would be numbers 1 through 7, or you could use a planet X to take the place of one of those numbers, then you would get 12 points. If you had 6, you would get 9, 5, 7, and so on. You will get points for your moon cards. If you scored your moon cards, meaning you met their condition in order to score them, then you'll score those points. Unique research symbols. So then again, I had explained that certain cards have research symbols on them. So the more of those you have, unique research symbols, the more points you will get. So if you have 7 unique research symbols, you will get 12 points. If you only have 1, you will get 1 point. So you'll see how that works. Asteroids. So again, whoever has the most asteroids will get 10 points. The second one will get 6, and the last one, the third one, will get 2 points. And then, and then it looks like that's it. And then whoever has the most points will win. Oh, sorry, you also get points from your rocket ships, of course. So yeah, don't forget to get points from your rocket ships, and then whoever has the most points will win. So I did very badly in this game because I kept on waiting for the perfect cards, and I kept on starting new solar systems. I just had quite a few solar systems. I can't remember how many. I think I had at least 4, maybe 5. So I just kept on starting new solar systems because I wasn't getting the cards I wanted, and I was really trying really hard to complete that one card for which I needed a planet of every color. It just wasn't happening. So I scored like 30 some points, and I think the winner had 70 points. So yeah, but it's a really fun set collection game. So it's part of the whole Point series, which started with Point Salad and then Point City and now Point Galaxy. I backed this because I don't own Point Salad or Point City. The theme of Point Salad did not appeal to me at all. Like I really just didn't care for having a game with like boring vegetable art on it, like just did not appeal to me at all. And then Point City is kind of cool. I liked Point City, but a friend has it, so I did not feel the need to add that to my collection. But I love space, and yeah, I'm glad I got this one. Like it's a good game. I think it's thinky, and I really enjoyed it. And it has a solo mode, so I'll definitely try the solo mode at some point. So yeah, so that was Point Galaxy. So if that sounds like something you're interested in, then you should check it out. So let's move on. Another game I played recently is Lockup, a role-player tale. So this is a 2019 game for 1 to 5 players, designed by Stan Kordonsky. The art is done by JJ Ariosa and Lucas Ribeiro, and is published by Thunderworks Games. And this is a review copy, which I received a long time ago, like several years ago. I actually covered the expansion of this game for its Kickstarter, which was the Breakout expansion. And when I played this game on Friday night, we played a 5-player game of it with the Breakout expansion. expansion, which I do not own. So we played with a friend's copy. I never received my production copy of the Breakout expansion, but after playing this again recently, I wish I had it because I do think it makes the game better and more fun. So this is an area majority worker placement game. So each person is going to have, so basically you have these different fantasy creatures which are in prison, and with the Breakout expansion, which I'm going to be talking about even though I don't have it to show you, your prisoners are trying to break out of prison. So each person is going to have this in which they're going to store their workers, which you'll then be placing out onto the main board in order to hopefully gain certain kinds of rewards and stuff. So your workers will look like this. So they each have a different strength. So this one has a fist symbol on it, and I'll explain what that means in a minute. This one has an eyeball symbol on it, so I'll explain what that means as well. But you've got a level 4, a level 3, a level 5, and then a level 2. And then with the expansion, you'll have a level 1. I believe it has the number 1 on it, and there will be a lantern symbol on it as well. And I'll talk about what that means, even though I don't have it to show you with this game. And then you're going to have like a bunch of different cubes representing different resources. The red cubes represent strength, power that you can gain. The kind of like grayish clear cubes are suspicion, which you want to avoid getting. There's a bunch of different cards. You're going to be collecting different types of goons and items that you are crafting. And then each player is going to have their own player board that looks like this. So there are 2 sides to each board. So there's the basic side and then the advanced setup side. So we played with the advanced setup side. So with the advanced setup side, each person will have a different amount of resources that they can store, but a different kind of starting ability or whatever. So for example, I played with the gnolls, and this is what my board looked like. So I started the game with 8 points, but I only had a storage capacity of 4 resources. Whereas the Buggo Bears, they start the game with 1 reserved item card drawn from the item deck, but start the game with 6 points, but they have more storage capacity. The kobolds started with a special tome card, which are like these cards that give you special abilities, which are really nice, that you can also get from the game. And they started with 11 points, but only a storage capacity of 3 resources. Goblins start with 5 storage capacity and 6 points, and they start with 1 goon card drawn from the goon deck. So that's nice for them. And then the insectoids start with 1 tome card that they get to choose after drawing 2, 6 points, and a storage capacity of 4 resources. So those are the advanced sides, and we played with the advanced side because we're experienced gamers. Now you are going to have, I'll show you the cards as they come up. So you're going to have a board that looks like this. So I'll just show you the board because it's not too big. So this is the board on the side we played with, because we have 5 players. So you'll see different sections of the board. You'll see for like down here, the sewers, there's an infirmary, there's the smithy, commissary, chow hall, cell block, library, exercise hall. You're going to have item decks here. You're going to have a goon placed in certain locations. So I'll explain what the different locations do, but you'll see there's different rewards for going to different locations if you have the most strength there. So basically, you are going to have a deck of cards, which is going to be placed oh, actually, I wonder if that's what the expansion as well. That I think comes with the expansion, so I don't have that here. But with the Breakout expansion, there are these cards because you're not going to be using all of your workers. So when you play with the Breakout expansion, you'll be using 6 of your 7 workers, and the last worker will be placed face down on the deck on the card, and that card will basically give like some benefit to once it's resolved at the end of the round to whoever has the most strength. So we don't have that here, but I'll still talk about it when it comes up. So I just want to show an example of a goon card. So goon cards are cards that are going to be placed out onto the board, and they will score in different ways at the end of the game. You'll also get points for actually never mind, I think I don't know if you will always score for goons. I have to double check. I think you do based on how many different variety of goons you have. So I do think everyone scores for goons, despite even if you don't meet the scoring condition on the goon card itself. Just some examples of some items that you might be able to craft. Like this one, for example. And when you craft an item, you gain the points immediately because there is a way for you to lose points as you're playing the game as well. So if you wanted to craft this, you would need these resources, for example. So those are just some examples of those. And then an example of a tome card, for example. Here's an example, substitute 1 required resource cube when crafting an item. So that's an example of a tome card that you can earn, and we'll talk about how you might get those. So on your turn, you are going to place down a certain number of your workers. Now in this game, you can only place 2 face down, whereas the rest will have to be placed face up. And you can place any number of workers in any location you want, but once you place workers in a location, you cannot go back to that location on a subsequent turn to add more workers if you see that someone has added workers there and you're worried that you might not have the most strength there and might not get to win that location. You cannot go back and add more workers unless you have a special tome card that gives you that kind of an ability to maybe switch some workers out or do something like that. So when you're placing workers, you can place down any number of workers, but only 2 in total can be placed face down. And with the Breakout expansion, you're going to be placing 6 of your 7 workers onto the board. And then after everyone has gone around and around, after placing all their workers, and the remaining worker will go on to that one special card, again associated with the Breakout expansion, for that to be resolved after we've resolved all of the locations of the board. So once everyone's placed all of their workers, you're going to reveal any of the face down workers that were placed, and then you'll resolve each location. Now this symbol means that it has the strength of whatever your strength is on your own player board. So you can earn strength cubes and place them, power cubes, and place them over here. So this worker is worth the strength of however many power cubes you have. So it's going to have a variable strength throughout the game, depending on how many power cubes you have. This one will help you to avoid getting suspicion, but it has a power of 0. So that is that worker. And then the lantern symbol I will talk about, even though I don't have that worker, but it is associated with the level power 1. So when you resolve spaces, you're going to reveal all of the people's workers and see who has the most strength. And they are going to gain the reward for the person who has the most strength. So we will go through the different areas now and talk about the different rewards. So in the sewers, you basically are going to collect these green cubes, these resources you need in order to craft different items. So the person with the most strength will get 3 green cubes, the second one will get 2, and everyone else will get 1. And I'm going to talk about suspicion after I go through all the different locations and talk about what suspicion means. Oh, sorry, but you resolve these areas in order. So actually you start with the exercise yard first because that's number 1. So whoever has the most strength in exercise yard will gain 1 red power cube, as well as the start player marker, so they will be first in the next round. Then you resolve the sewers, then you resolve the infirmary. So in the infirmary, whoever has the most strength will get 3 blue cubes, and then whoever has the least strength will get 1 blue cube. Anyone in the middle will gain nothing. In this smithy, whoever has the most will gain 2 gray cubes. Whoever is in second will gain 1 gray cube. Everyone else gets nothing. Now, if you get nothing, don't despair, because you will come to the library. Your workers will be moved to the library, where you will be able to collect tome cards, hopefully. As long as there's not more than 3 different players there with their workers. Then we go over to the commissary. The commissary is where you can collect a gold resource cube, which are harder to get. So the first player will get 1 resource cube of their choice. The second player can trade 1 resource of their choice for another resource, and everyone else can trade 2 resources for any 1 other resource. So that's the commissary. The chow hall is where you can get goons. So the first player can turn in any 1 resource for 1 goon card that is visible on the board somewhere. So again, goons are going to be placed here, 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 and here at the start of a round. Sorry, not here. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So there will be 5 goons available on the board. So if you're the first, you have the most strength in the Chow Hall, you can trade 1 resource for a goon card or 4 resources for 2 goon cards. If you're in second place, 1 resource for 1 goon card or 5 for 2 goon cards. And then everyone else can turn in 2 resources for 1 goon card. If you are in the cell block, the first player will get to turn in, will get to craft an item. Now you can reserve items, so you can either craft an item from here that appears in the item section by turning in the necessary resources, or you can reserve an item and keep it next to your player board for 1 cube of any type. And then reserved items have to be crafted later by you also again going to the cell block. So again, whoever has the most strength will get their first pick, and then the second person will get their pick, and so on. So everyone will get to pick. However, you know, if there's some really good items and you had the least amount of strength, you might be out of luck there in getting a good item that you wanted, or you might end up with items for which you don't have resources. So that can kind of suck, but you can always reserve something and then craft it later. And then finally, you will come down to the library, and anyone who didn't gain a reward from elsewhere, their workers were moved to the library. The person who has the strongest strength in the library, you cannot actually place workers there. You can only get moved there during the resolution phase, by the way. So whoever had the strongest strength in the library will get to draw 2 tome cards and keep 1. And then the second and third players' strengths, people will get 1 tome card each. Now, when you place out goons at the start of a round, you might end up placing suspicion in a certain area as well. So certain goon cards indicate that suspicion cubes need to be placed, and if you had the most strength, you gain the suspicion that was in that location. So for example, if this goon card was in a certain location and you won that location, this goon card indicated that there was 1 suspicion cube there, you would gain that suspicion cube. Now, if there's suspicion cubes left over from the previous round, you would just add more suspicion cubes as needed. At the end of the round, the goon cards slide down and then get refilled. So it's possible that an area can end up with, like for example, 4 suspicion cubes. However, the way to avoid getting suspicion cubes is by playing this worker in that location. And if you played this guy, then you don't get suspicion because he is your lookout character. So you avoid suspicion. If at any point during the cleanup phase you have no more suspicion cubes to add, then there's going to be a raid. So you're going to see who has the most suspicion cubes on their board, and they're going to lose a certain number of points. And then the second most will also lose a certain number of points. I can't remember how many points it was. I think the person with the most suspicion loses 8 points, I believe. And then the rest, I think, lose 3 maybe. I think it was that much. Let's just double check the amount of points that you lose. Yeah, so the one with the most suspicion loses 8 points, and then the player with the second most loses 4 points. You cannot go down below 0 on the reputation track. So you want to avoid getting suspicion as if possible. So that's why it pays to use this worker, even though it has a strength of 0. So if you really needed the reward from a certain area, you can use that worker in order to avoid getting suspicion if that area has a lot of suspicion cubes. So a raid only happens when there is no suspicion left in the suspicion supply to add suspicion to the locations where it's needed during the cleanup phase. Now, with the Breakout expansion, you also have a worker that has a number 1 and a lantern symbol on it. If you had the highest value strength in that location and you had the lantern symbol, that would allow you to advance your lantern through the jail. There's like these underground like kind of catacomb like things. I'll just post a picture here, and you can follow different paths and you will advance a certain number of spaces based on these tokens that were also in the different locations. So there will have been different tokens placed in different locations that indicate how many spaces, I'll just call them the catacombs, you can move through. So almost all of them have 1 space, except one of the tokens allows you to move 2 spaces. However, you have to have the most strength, and you have to have used your worker that has the lantern symbol on it for you to move through the catacombs. The reason you want to move through the catacombs is because if you manage to break out before the end of the game, for every round that remains after you've broken out, you get an additional 3 points. And you also gain a large number of points at the end of the game. The farther you get along to breaking out, the more points you will score at the end of the game. And there's also different kinds of loot that you can collect as you are going through the catacombs and trying to escape. So different sections within the catacombs have loot that you can look through once you reach there and take something that you want, like a different item that might help you. And there is, there's a few points where you can take a shortcut through the catacombs by paying a certain resource. And there is one area where you can end in a certain section by paying 2 resources, but then you can't move farther along. You're just stuck there, and that would give you a total of like 15 points or something. But if you manage to break free, you'll get a higher number of points. But in order to break free, you will need to move more than 1 space on essentially every round, because otherwise you're not going to have enough movements to actually break free and reach the end of the catacombs. So yeah, because the game is played over 6 rounds. So that is the Breakout expansion, and I think it's really worth playing with the Breakout expansion because it makes this game a lot more interesting and fun, in my opinion. But yeah, so basically at the end of the game, then you're going to score at the end of 6 rounds. So at the end of the game, you will score for, so let's talk about all the different things you will score. Oh, and there's also goals that you will be trying to, public goal cards that you will be trying to achieve. So like, for example, I managed to achieve one, which was to have the most, to have 8 items, to be the first person with 8 resources at one time. So I had 8 resources, so I managed to get that goal card, which scored me a certain number of points at the end of the game. They're called instant goal cards. And there's also leader goal cards and end game goal cards as well that you will score for. So you will be claiming those as well. So I think one of the goal cards was like have like a certain number of items or goons or something like that. So there's different types. So now let's just go to end game scoring so we can tell you what you actually score points for. I believe it's, here we go, final scoring. So at the end of the 6 rounds, there's always going to be one final raid. So regardless of whether or not there's suspicion on the main board, you're going to do a raid at the last round. So you might lose 8 points if you have the most suspicion, or 4 if you have the second most suspicion. Then at the end of the game, you will score for the leader goal. So the player who ended the game with the leader goal card in their possession scores 8 points or whatever, however many points, depending on your player count. The end game goal card, so you'll score points for that. Goons, you score points based on your recruited goons, depending on how many goons you have. So more variety of goons, the more points you will get. You'll score 1 reputation star for each resource left over. But if you have gold, those are worth 2 points because they're harder to get. You'll score points for 2 tome cards left over, so 1 point for every tome card left over. And then first player marker. Whoever has the first player marker will score 2 points. And then whoever has the most points will win. And with the expansion, you're also going to see how far along in the catacombs you made it. And each room has a different number of points indicated there, so you will score points for that as well. So that is Lockup. So it's a really fun kind of area control game. Area control in the sense that you have to resolve for strength and see who has the most strength with their workers in a certain area. But it's more fun with the hidden element because each player can put 2 of them face down. So that's fun. And with the Breakout expansion, it's even more fun because you will have 1 worker left over, which goes on the end of round card, face down on the end of round card, which you resolve at the end of the round. And whoever has the most strength on that will get some kind of a benefit. And you are also trying to, race to the end of the catacombs and get points that way. So I think it's a lot more fun with the Breakout expansion, and I highly recommend it. So if that sounds like something you're interested in, then I do recommend playing with the Breakout expansion if you can get that. And that was Lockup. So let's move on. Another game I played recently, which I do not own, is Farms Race. This is a 2024 game for 2 to 4 players, designed by Daniel Dranov and Tom Weiner, and the art is done by Michael Zhang and is published by Medium Bro Games. And this is like Catan with nuclear weapons and farm animals. So I played with a friend's copy, and we played a 3-player game of this. Now, the difference between this and Catan is basically you are not going to have roads that you are building, but you will be building out different buildings, and you will be generating different animals at the start of each turn. So during setup, you will have a map that looks something like this, and each person will start on the board with one of their barns placed, and with some starting herds, 2 herds. So a herd is indicated by your specific animal token. And the animal tokens have 2 sides. On one side, it's blank, and on the other side, it shows like a heart symbol that represents health, but the blank side means you have 2 health for that herd. And if it shows the heart side, then that's 1 health. And because you can fight each other in this game and destroy each other and kill each other and stuff like that. So again, you're going to have like, if you're playing with the, for the first time, you should just do the recommended setup, I guess, which is what we did. So you're going to have a barn and 2 herds, and then basically you're going to go through the 4 phases of your turn when it's your turn until someone reaches 10 points. So like Catan, the game will end immediately once someone has 10 points. And there's a variety of ways to get 10 points in this game, which we'll talk about. But basically on your turn, the first thing you're going to do is have preparation. So if there were any turmoil tokens, you'll remove those, and we'll talk about what turmoil tokens are. You'll gain new herds. So for every building you have, each building that you have will generate a new herd, so you'll place out a new animal token on the tiles that have your buildings. Then you can either move or heal herds. So during the actions phase, you can move a herd 1 space adjacent, or you can heal a herd by flipping it from the heart side to the blank side, which means it's at full health. And during the actions phase is when you will also be able to battle other people and try to take over their territories. So the game starts with a certain number of humans on the map, and you want to get rid of those humans. So if you move your herds into an area where there are humans, you're going to roll these battle dice to see who wins. And when you roll the dice, certain symbols will appear. So in order to defeat a human, you can defeat a human if your dice rolls reveal a gun symbol or a human symbol. So that means that deals damage to the humans, and you can kill them that way. Each human will tell you, you'll flip it face up first when you decide to battle them, and that'll tell you how many humans you're fighting and how many kills you essentially need to make. So it can range from 1 to 3. So you might be fighting 1 human or up to 3 humans. And so the human's also going to deal you damage. So another player will roll dice for the humans. If it's 1 human, they'll roll 1 die. If it's 2 dice, or if it's 3 dice. And same for you. You'll roll 1 die for each herd you have that is fighting, and you're just going to inflict damage on each other and take your damage. You'll be flipping over your herds if you take any damage. I found when playing this game that humans were pretty easy to defeat, and that was really not an issue. So after you've done your actions, you can also build buildings during this phase. You can basically build buildings at any time, but it's usually during actions or after rolling for resources that you will build buildings. So after the actions phase, you can also purchase nuclear weapons. So the cost of building different buildings and purchasing weapons or spy cards is indicated on the player aid card. So to build a new barn, you will need 1 wood, 1 a nuclear symbol, I can't remember what it's called, 1 clay and 1 wheat. In order to upgrade a barn to, what's it called? It was like a armory. In order to upgrade a barn to an armory, you will need 3 weapons and 2 nuclear symbols, which again, I don't remember what that was actually called. To buy a nuclear weapon, you'll need 1 weapon, 1 clay, and 1 nuclear symbol. And to get a spy card, you will need 1 wood and 1 wheat. Barns on the board are worth 1 point, and armories are worth 2 points each. If you ever defeat another player, you will also get a point token for that. So if you take over another player's territory by eliminating them and taking control of their tile, you will gain a point token. You do not get point tokens for defeating humans though. And you will also get point tokens on certain spy cards. So there are a certain number of spy cards in the deck that have points on them, which you can keep hidden. So someone might win the game with hidden points, which is exactly what happened in the game we were playing. So after you take your actions and you've built stuff, maybe you've bought a nuclear weapon, and you can also, fire nuclear weapons on other people. If you do fire nuclear weapons on anyone, they do have the ability to buy a weapon themselves at that point if they can, and fire a weapon back at you. By firing nuclear weapons, you will kill everyone, so all the herds are killed and humans are killed, but buildings remain, if I remember correctly. But no, actually, I think buildings get removed. The reason I don't know is because we actually never got to fire nuclear weapons on anyone. Someone won the game before any nuclear fighting happened, which kind of defeats the whole fun purpose of this game. Whatever. So anyway, after you've taken your actions and maybe resolved any battles, whatever, you will roll for resources. There are resource dice that you will roll, and anyone who has a building or actually control, so it doesn't have to be buildings, it can be just your animals, your herds. If you have control of that resource type which came up, then everyone who has control of that kind of area will get to collect that resource. Then you have to discard down to 7 or fewer resources at the end of your turn if you are the active player. And then it will be the next player's turn. There are special cards, traits that you can start with, which will give you a special ability. So mine was Insecure. So I was able to start with a nuclear resource card, and then every time the resource dice rolled doubles, I was able to nuke a region adjacent to the one I controlled for free, which was very nice because I was able to eliminate humans pretty easily for that way, but I did not collect nuke tokens for that. Another way to get points is to be the nukiest in this game. So if you have the most nuclear weapons, you will get the nukiest card, which is worth, I think, 1 point or something like that. So that is essentially Farms Race. You're basically building buildings, upgrading your buildings into armories, attacking other players, attacking humans, and so on, and just trying to get to 10 points first. Unfortunately, we did not get to nuke each other, so we didn't get to the fun part of the game. We were just about to start, but someone reached 10 points because her ability was that she could get 2 spy cards for the cost of 1. So she was just accumulating spy cards on each turn, and she earned like 3 points just from spy cards by getting really lucky and getting spy cards that had points on them, which she had hidden. And then she had the buildings and the nukiest card, and she managed to get to 10 points before we even got to nuke each other. So we never got to that part of the game. But it was a fun game, and I would be down to play it again. So if you like farm animals and fighting, then check it out. It's got, some cool cards with funny artwork and stuff like that. So if that sounds like your kind of thing, then you might be interested. Again, it's like Catan with nuclear weapons, but no road building, which is good because I think that just would have caused the game to drag on a bit, and it doesn't really fit the whole theme of the game, the road building as well. So that was Farms Race, and if that sounds like something you're interested in, then you should check it out. So let's move on. So I have no new arrivals to show, which is good because I have a shit ton of games, and I have been working really hard to organize my game room. So actually, I forgot to show this in the last video, but last week before I started shooting my video, this is what my game room looked like. So I had stacks of games by the window that's in front of me. At the other end of this table, the whole table was just covered with games. I had games all over the floor, just a complete mess. I had games in multiple game bags. So, things are just out of control. And by the way, this closet here is has 2 Billy bookcases in it that are filled with games. This closet over here has a few bookcases smaller, and it's filled with games as well. It's got games on the bookcases, it's got games stacked up on the floor, and then I have downstairs in my library 1, 2, 3 bookcases, I think, 3 large like Billy kind of size bookcases, as well as a smaller bookcase, all filled with games. It's, and then I've got a few other areas where games are just kind of lying around in my house somewhere. So it's crazy. And this is what happens when you own over 700 games, excluding expansions. So according to BGG, which is where I keep track of all the games I own, I think I have like around 750 games, excluding expansions, which is insane. But that also includes small box games. So it's not like terrible, but it is terrible. But yeah, so I decided, okay, I really need to organize my game room because there was like literally no place to play games on my table anymore. It was just such a freaking disaster. And I've had several people asking me, if I'm selling any games they'd be interested in buying. And, I haven't done a giveaway on this channel for a long time. So finally I started organizing, and I've pulled out at least maybe 40 games by now that I'm planning on culling. hopefully selling, but maybe I'll do some giveaways as well. So in the next video, I will do a giveaway. I haven't decided which game yet, so I'm not gonna do it in this week's video, but I want to give all the previous people who won games a chance to get in touch with me. Because some of them, they did not, well, all of them actually, I haven't actually shipped the games to anyone because I think that they all said that if I was selling games, they would be interested in seeing what I'm selling, so maybe they can save on shipping costs, because the giveaways, the way they work when I do a giveaway in my videos is that you get the game for free, but you just pay for shipping. So in this way, if you want to buy a game from me, you can just save on shipping cost if you also want a game from me. So I am going to prepare a list. I don't know if I'll actually prepare a list or just take photos of the stacks of games that I'm planning on selling. And you know, I have a good camera, so the names should appear and you can just look up the game itself and see if it's a game or not you're interested in. That might just be easier than creating a list. It might just be easier to take photos instead, and then I can just price them. If people are interested in purchasing a certain game, they can just message me and we can figure out a price for it. I think that that would just be an easier way to do it than me creating a list and then pricing each game individually. Also, because I am banned from Board Game Geek, I can't actually sell on the Board Game Geek marketplace, so I have to rely on selling through just sending out pictures to friends, or maybe selling at a convention. You know, if I can do that, I don't know, you know, so I have to sell my games in other ways, maybe Facebook groups, because I can't list them on Board Game Geek. And I don't know how many people actually check eBay for buying games. Like, I've never checked eBay to purchase a game, so I don't know if that's something that people even do. I would be curious. So if you have ever bought a game on eBay, please let me know if that's something that people actually do, or if there's other ways to sell games that are good, let me know. So if you are someone who is watching this and would like to know which games I'm selling, please shoot me an email at boardgamesinAminute@gmail.com. No underscores, just boardgamesinAminute@gmail.com, and ask for the list, or in this case, photographs. And maybe you can buy some games from me, because I just have too many and I really, really need to get rid of a lot of games. So that is my big culling update, that I actually have started pulling out games, and I think I have at least a stack of 40 minimum, I think, games that I'm ready to get rid of. I think it's at least 40 games, but more definitely could be added to that stack for sure, and more will get added in the next few days, I'm hopeful, just because, you know, there's still too many games everywhere. so yeah, so that is my big culling update. So I think that that's it. So let's move on. So just a quick cat update. I think I have an idea to help raise money for rock cats, which I talked about in last week's video. So I think I think, you know, FlagCon might be willing to do a raffle at the convention. So if I can reach out to publishers to have them donate games, we can do a raffle at FlagCon, and I think it would be win-win, because people would be interested, I think, in purchasing a raffle ticket for $10 to win a stack of brand new games that were donated by publishers. So I think that that would be a really good way to help Rock Cats, the organization that traps, neuters, and spays and releases stray cats. And, you know, they are in need of funds, and FlagCon isn't that far away. It's like the first weekend or second weekend of November, I think. So that would be a really great way to make that happen. So now everyone just keep your fingers crossed and pray that publishers will actually want to donate games to help a TNR organization. Because, you know, we are learning that a lot of people actually think TNR, and as I've discussed in the last video, so I'm not going to go into it all again, but some people think that TNR is bad, when in fact it is not bad, but very, very necessary. So just send your good vibes this way, that hopefully we can get publishers to donate games for a raffle to be held at FlagCon, because I think that that would be a really great way to raise money. So fingers crossed, FlagCon seems on board with the idea. We just need to iron out some details. So I think it can happen if publishers can donate games. So yeah, so that is just a quick cat update, so let's move on. So for this week, for the Fiction Book Club, we were supposed to read up to chapter 44. Sorry, I don't know why I was thinking 45. I have my bookmark in the wrong place, but I'm pretty sure it was 44. Or no, sorry, was it 40? What chapters were we supposed to read? 44. Yeah, it was 44. Sorry, it was chapter 44. So yeah, so we were supposed to read chapters 41 to 44. So basically we learned in the last week that, you know, Red had been raped by Fish. And then in this week's reading, you know, basically Red got really upset and started yelling at Fish to get out, and Fish ended up leaving, you know, and Red destroyed their guitar and stuff like that. You know, there was that whole incident that happened there. And then there's a raid on the place. Now, to me, I don't think it was entirely clear whether the raid was started by Fish, but I think it was, based on what the lawyer then said later on when Maddie contacted the lawyer. So it seems like it was all Fish's fault for being upset that Red yelled at him and stuff like that and kicked him out of the building. So there's a raid that happens where the police come and kick everyone out of the building, and then people get arrested, they get attacked by these drones, and all of this stuff happens. They get gassed and blah blah blah. They end up in jail. Maddie loses her teaching license because now she's been charged with a felony, which she thought was going to happen anyway eventually, so I guess she's not like too shocked by it, but whatever. And then you know, she contacts the lawyer that Fish had hired, and the lawyer says that he's no longer working for Fish because Fish violated the terms of their contract. But Fish's that lawyer is willing to help Maddie, and I think it looks like he's willing to help Justice as well. So that's essentially, I think, what happened. Like, I feel like not much else happened. So I feel like, you know, I'm just still waiting for more and more to happen, but we are in the section of the book that's called Revolution now. So I guess for next week, how many chapters are left? Maybe we should just read 8 chapters. Because if we read 8, maybe we'll be done with it in 2 more sessions. And it's kind of short reading. So I think for next week, let's just read 8 chapters, which would bring us to, let's see, so 45, 46, 47, 48, 49, 50, 51, 52. I think that ends us on 52, right? Is 52 a multiple of 4? I believe it is, because that's how it's been working out. I used to be really good at math, but now I just kind of suck at math. But let's see, I'm just going to use a calculator really quickly. So 52 divided by 4 is 13. So it is a multiple of 4. So yeah, so let's go all the way up and read up to chapter 52. So stop before chapter 53, because I think that we can do that. These chapters are pretty short, and I'm just eager to finish this book so that we can move on to something else. Yeah, because I really feel like nothing is happening, and it's kind of going at a snail's pace now, and I'm just like kind of getting bored of it, to be honest. So yeah, so let's just read up to chapter 52 for next time, and let me know your thoughts below. But I don't think I have anything else to really comment on. I feel like nothing really happened. I mean, I guess what's true to real life is, like, as Maddie described, that it was the Black and colored people who were getting, you know, attacked and pushed down and having violence used against them when that raid happened, whereas the white people were just getting dealt with more gently, even though they were still getting arrested. And of course, that's true to real life here as well. Like, you know, again, the author just uses whatever they see in real life and has put everything into this book. So that is very much true to real life. Like on TikTok, I'm always coming across videos of these police stops. And, you know, you will definitely see a huge difference between how white people are treated when they're stopped by the police, as opposed to how Black people are treated when they're stopped by the police. Now, as someone who's colored but is not Black, you know, I think I've been pretty fortunate to be treated okay by the police, because I'm not Black, even though I am a colored person. But I'd be interested to see more data on that. I would be interested to see more data on how people of Middle Eastern descent are treated when they're stopped by the police in general. You know, I'm able to pass, I think, as, you know, well, I don't know if I'm able to, I can't pass as white, obviously, but, you know, I'm a lighter colored individual than you know, other people are who are colored. So I think that it kind of helps me in some ways. Yeah. So anyway, so like I said, I haven't, you know, had like any bad experiences when I've been stopped by the police. And I've been stopped by the police a number of times because I have a lead foot and I speed a lot. So I think that by now I have a total of, I've got 7 speeding tickets under my belt ever since I started driving. So yeah, so I think I've gotten a total of 7 speeding tickets, but I've been stopped more than that because there's a few times I was stopped, but I managed to get out of getting a ticket, which was really good. But not all the time. That only happened like 2 times, I think, that I managed to get out of getting a ticket. And one of those times, actually, the police officer, I was really pissed at him. So there was twice I was stopped, twice I was stopped for non-speeding reasons. One was because an officer thought I did not stop at a stop sign when I totally did. What happened was I just stopped and then I couldn't see because there was like this big tree or something in the way. So I stopped and then I moved forward a little bit and then I continued on when I saw that there was no traffic, and he thought I didn't do a full stop because of how quick my second stop was. So as soon as I crossed the intersection, I see these lights behind me, and I was really pissed at him. So I was like, I know. He's like, do you know why you stopped me? He was like, do you know why I stopped you? And I was like, yes, I know why you stopped me. You think I didn't stop at the stop sign, but I totally did. The reason I had to do another stop was because I couldn't see, and I was just giving him such an attitude because I was just really pissy. And so anyway, he went back to his car with my information and then came back, and he didn't give me a ticket. He's like, but just for future reference, you shouldn't be so rude to police officers. And I was like, oh, I really thought he was going to give me a ticket, with especially like how mean I was being to him, because I was just so pissed he stopped me. But he didn't give me a ticket. So that was one time. Another time I got stopped was because the officer thought I was holding my phone. And I was like, no, I was not holding my phone. I was holding a bubble tea. And, you know, like, I'm a bubble tea addict. I had the bubble tea right there. I was picking up my bubble tea to drink it. I was so close to my apartment. I had no reason to be using my phone. But this police officer stopped me. He's like, no, I saw a phone in your hands. I'm like, no, you didn't see a phone. You saw this bubble tea. I was like, I did not have a phone in my hands. And I was just so angry again that I got stopped. And like, this guy is like lying when I am 100% telling the truth that I was not holding a phone. And then I started crying and I was just really angry. So he let me go without a ticket. He's like, it looks like you're having a really bad day. And I was like, yeah, I'm having a fucking bad day because you stopped me based on something that didn't happen. Like, you are the one, you're the reason I'm having a bad day. But he's like, oh, it looks like you're having a bad day, so I'll let you go this time. And I'm like, yeah, you should let me go because I'm telling you the fucking truth. So those are 2 times that I got stopped for not speeding and got out of it. You didn't get a ticket, so that was good. Yeah, anyway, I went off on a total tangent here, but like, I think that just goes to show that, you know, I have been rude to police officers on 2 separate occasions and nothing happened to me because, again, I'm not Black. But I think if I were Black, you know, things could go very differently in this country, which is very racist and very fascist now. Anyway, so that is my tangent of the week for our fiction book club of the week. So for next week, please read up to chapter 52. So let's move on. So for this week's nonfiction book club, we were supposed to read roughly the first half of chapter 7, which is The Great War and the Rise of Reza Khan. So I read up to page 420, the break on 420, so I stopped just before the coup and control of the capital. So the Great War is World War I, basically. And so this chapter goes over what was happening in Iran during World War I. And it's interesting because Iran itself wasn't involved in the war, right? But Iran is being used as kind of the grounds for a kind of battle, I guess you could say, between like Germany and Russia and Great Britain. So I think Germany and Russia were on one side, right? And Great Britain was on the other side. And they all kind of wanted control of different parts of Iran because of the oil and the routes that they could make through Iran to like the rest of the Middle East and stuff like that, right? So I had actually looked it up on Google because I was curious. So it says, during World War I, Iran, then Persia, attempted to remain neutral but became a battleground for British, Russian, and German-backed Ottoman forces due to its strategic location and vast oil reserves. Britain and Russia, already having established spheres of influence in the north and south respectively, deployed troops to protect their vital oil interests and strategic routes to India. Germany, allied with the Ottomans, sought to undermine British and Russian control by stirring up anti-British sentiment and supporting anti-foreign elements within Iran. So so this chapter basically discusses all of that, and that's a good summation of what's going on in this chapter. So I actually did listen to the audiobook while reading this, and I would stop the audiobook and highlight some things, but I don't think I'm gonna like go through a lot of what I highlighted because I don't need to regurgitate all of the history because that would just be really boring for you guys. But essentially this is what's happening in this chapter, is, you know, the kind of summary that I just read. But something that I thought was interesting, so, you know, then they talk about this Anglo-Persian agreement that Great Britain was trying to make with Iran, but never came to fruition. So it never happened, right? But I want to talk about this one person who I did not know about, who I thought was really interesting, Mirza Kuchak. So he's this guy who is this like socialist fighter, and there was one interesting line about him that I thought was really interesting, because he was the first, what did it say? He was like the first guerrilla warfare or first something. He was the first something in the 20th century, it said. Where is it? I should have highlighted that line, because that line I thought was really interesting about him, because I did not know that about him. Come on. Oh, yeah. See, so it says, handsome, charismatic, and witty, yet also easily irritable and fatalistic, the 33-year-old Kuchak Khan founded what is perhaps the 20th century's first guerrilla movement, with its revolutionary ideology and a semblance of partisan organization. That is so interesting. Like, had no idea. Like, you never hear about him. You never hear about Kuchak Khan, yet he is the person who founded what is perhaps the 20th century's first guerrilla movement. Like, how freaking interesting is that? Like, I thought that was really cool. Another thing that I found interesting was like the Jangalis. Like, I did not, so a term that my mother uses a lot is jungly, which is Jangali, but basically in a more colloquial form, jungly. And I think it comes from that word. Like, I am now guessing, because jungly kind of means someone who is uncultured, kind of like you imagine from being from the jungle. So it's a word my mother uses as an insult for people, and it's very similar to the word Jangali. So I'm wondering if that's the same word, kind of that it came from that. So I thought that was interesting. Not that that's interesting to you guys, but I thought it was interesting. We saw what happens like immediately following the Great War, and one thing that I was really upset about was that let me see if I can find it. But here is Iran being used as this like area for these different countries to fight to keep their interest, right? Their interests. But then when it came to resolving what happened at the end of the war, Iran had no say in what was going to happen. And I'm like, that is such fucking bullshit. Like, that is just colonialist bullshit, right? So where was it? I can't find it now, but that just really, really angered me. Yeah. You know, in this chapter we see how different countries are like, you know, already starting to have their different interests in the Middle East. I mean, at this point they already did. Like, this chapter even talked about the British mandate that created Palestine, the state, and then which was given to the frickin' Zionists, which we've already discussed in previous nonfiction books. And then it talked about how the French, was it the French that were upset about that? I can't remember where it said that in this chapter, but I think it mentioned that because the French kind of had no say in I think it was the Sykes-Picot Agreement, or was it the British mandate or something like that? Was it the Sykes-Picot Agreement that divided up Syria, I think, and the other created the Syria and the other country? I think that was it. I can't remember now, but yeah, so they were upset about that, if I recall reading correctly. So, you know, you're already seeing all these countries that are just kind of, you know, trying to take control of Iran for their own colonialist reasons. And all along that this is happening, you know, you see stuff happening in Iran, including a famine, including a pandemic, and 1 million people died in Iran. Like, that's a lot for that time, because apparently the population of Iran at this time was only 9 million people. Like, that's insane. Like, I feel like the world's population has just blown up, right? It's just crazy that back in the early 1900s, the population of Iran was just 9 million people. Like, wow. But basically you find out who Reza Khan is and how he basically is coming to power at this time. So Reza Khan was basically a soldier. He was a colonel in the Cossack. He was another Iranian senior Cossack officer. And he seemed to be the desirable person to match the job description of what the British, I think it was the British people who were looking for at that time. I can't remember. Yeah, I really should have highlighted things. Yeah, I can't remember. But someone was looking for a certain leader of a certain type, and it ended up kind of being Reza Khan. So basically, when we continue this chapter, we'll basically learn about the coup. But Reza Khan basically does not come from like a royal lineage himself, even though he then established the monarchy once he took control. So, you know, we're going to find out what happens once he does his coup and takes control, because he establishes a monarchy and makes himself the Shah of Iran. But he did not come from like a very like noble or prestigious background from what we read here in this chapter about him. Yeah, but he did have members of family who were also like soldiers and stuff like that. Yeah, so I guess that's it. I don't know if I have much else to say, because again, I already told you guys I'm gonna really suck at like kind of summarizing this book, because it's so freaking academic and so detailed and just kind of hard to summarize. But yeah, but basically that's what happened in this part of the chapter. We just see how Iran is like the backdrop to World War I, and different countries have their own interests for different reasons, and like the, you know, Russians have control of one part of the country, the British have control of another part of the country, and they're each trying to prevent the other from gaining more control, and so on, and blah blah blah. And there's a fiction book actually which talks about which kind of talks about Iran and how people became paranoid of foreign control of their country, and it's called My Uncle Napoleon, in case anyone is interested in reading some fiction from Iran that might kind of give you an idea of what things were like. So I read this book many years ago, so I don't remember anything about it other than that, but it was called My Uncle Napoleon. Let me see if I can find the author of this book. One second. I used to read a lot of Iranian fiction, but it's been so long. I go through these phases where I'm like really obsessed with one kind of like genre or whatever. Oh yeah, so My Uncle Napoleon is a coming-of-age novel by Iranian author Iraj Pezeshkad, published in Tehran in Persian in 1973. So it says it's a timeless and universal satire of first love and family intrigue, blah, blah, blah. But I know it had something to do with the uncle being like really paranoid about Russians or something like that. I remember that much. Yeah, so if you guys are interested in a fiction book, that's something you can check out. So anyway, I don't know what else to say. I'm sorry. There was something else that I really wanted to mention, but now I don't remember, because as I was reading it, I was like, oh, that's really interesting. I should mention that. But again, I stopped highlighting after a certain while. Yeah. Oh, yeah. There was one sentence I think I wanted to. There were, you know, when it was talking about, I think the famine or the pandemic and how people were dying. I think I recall reading a line somewhere about how the British like just didn't care or something like that, and it reminded me of the famine that they caused in India when they you know, were controlling India, which at this time they still were. Like India was still a colony at this time. So yeah, it reminded me of Winston Churchill and the really racist things he said about India and Indians, and how, you know, here you have this colonial power, and there's a famine going on in the country that they control, and they're not feeding the people. So that's what colonialism is, where you're hoarding all the resources for yourself and you're not assimilating, you're just trying to control the resources of the country that you've taken over. That's what colonialism is, you know, which we kind of talked a little bit about when we were talking about Palestine. Like, why is Zionism colonialism, and why is it not like the expansion of Islam when Islam was expanding and coming into these countries? Because when Islam was expanding, it was not, you know, trying to just take control of its resources for its own people back home. When Islam was expanding, it was actually, you know, the religion was expanding, but the people were converting and maintaining, like, you know, control of their resources, and the resources were to benefit everyone, and you know, things like that. I've read a really good explanation of it somewhere, but the expansion of Islam is not the same as colonialism, and you can read about why. Like, settler colonialism is something totally different than historical religious expansionism. So that's just something I just wanted to mention in case people were wondering about that. But I can't find it now, but I remember reading something in this chapter, the first half of this chapter, about how British people, the British officers, just didn't really seem to be too concerned with what was happening in Iran with the famine and the health stuff, the pandemic and all of this. Okay, really, really bad explanation, and I apologize. But for next week, please finish reading chapter 7. And then we will get to more interesting stuff, hopefully. Although this book is so long, like even once we finish chapter 7, then this is chapter 8 onwards. Like, wow. And so yeah, there's still a lot, and yeah, oh well. Okay, so for next time rather, please read the rest of chapter 7, because I'm not actually sure I'll be able to shoot a video next week. So let's move on. But just leave your thoughts in the comments below, please. And I will get the audiobook link to people who requested it. And I'm sorry I haven't done that yet, but I will do that. Sorry. Okay, let's move on. So in this week's Rant of the Week, I'll just give a few quick updates from stuff that I talked about last week, and then I'll talk about some new stuff for this week. So last week I mentioned how Matthew Ryan, first of all, I got the board game publishing company that he owns, the name of it, wrong. It's not Envy Board Games, it's Envy Born Games, B-O-R-N. So Born, Envy Born Games. So yeah, I got that wrong. So anyway, so Matthew Ryan somehow got word that I talked about him in my video, I guess, because he then blocked me from Instagram. But the screenshot lives on. Like, we already know he's following Charlie Kirk. And even though he blocked me on TikTok, like, blocking me doesn't do anything. Like, people by this point should know that if you have a public account, like, blocking someone is not actually going to prevent them from seeing your content. And the dude still follows Brett Cooper, like, you know, like these right-wing conservative, like racist, like assholes. Like, I just, yeah. So anyway, I think it's interesting that he blocked me, and several other people who I didn't even mention in my video blocked me as well. Like, for example, Danny Standring. So, you know, obviously people talk, or they get word that I'm like, you know, maybe saying shit about their friends or whatever, and then they block me too. Like, okay, that's fine. I really don't care. Like, yeah, but that's just a little update there. So yeah, people will continue to support their friends who, you know, like Charlie Kirk, and we already have seen what Charlie Kirk is and what he believes in. And it really makes no sense to me how people who claim to be all for diversity, equity, and inclusion are totally fine with being friends with someone who likes Charlie Kirk. And in fact, I didn't see this before, but Matthew Ryan had made a statement following Charlie Kirk's death. So it still really baffles me how there's this gay Filipino guy who just goes on and on about diversity and equity and inclusion in his TikTok videos, appeared on some diversity panel at Gen Con, but has never once mentioned Palestine, and is friends with someone who follows Charlie Kirk. Like, just make that make sense. Like, I really don't understand. Like, it makes no fucking sense to me, but whatever. So yeah, so that's just a quick update. Oh, and another quick update was that one person I mentioned, she also follows Charlie Kirk. So that one person, content creator I mentioned last week, Meeple Studies, she actually, I looked it up, she does follow Charlie Kirk on Instagram. So maybe that's why she was so upset when that other content creator posted something about how Charlie Kirk said empathy, like, is, you know, he doesn't believe in empathy, and she was like, oh, well, you have no empathy for his family right now, blah, blah, blah. So yeah, that explains that. She actually follows him, or follows his account. He's gone now. Speaking of which, so this is going to lead into the next topic, right? So that nighttime host, what's his name? Jimmy Kimmel. Do not like Jimmy Kimmel, have never liked him, but he got canceled, basically. His show got canceled, right? And what do we see after his show gets canceled? People boycotting Disney now, because it was Disney who made the decision to cancel him after he said something about Charlie Kirk. So he didn't even like say something so disparaging or whatever. He just made a comment. I don't even know what the comment was now. I can't remember. But he said something and his show gets canceled. And now people are like, oh, let's boycott Disney. And who are some of the people who canceled their Disney subscription? That would be Eric Lang and Suzanne Sheldon, which is just so fucking interesting, right? So Eric Lang posted on Blue Sky, I don't give a rat's ass about Kimmel, but I care a lot about fascism. So, and then he posted a screenshot of him, you know, showing that his subscription to Disney Plus has been canceled. Do you really care about fascism, Eric? Because you've been silent for almost 2 years now about the genocide of Palestinians and all the fascism we've been seeing in America against pro-Palestinian activists. Like, where the fuck was your care about fascism then? Like, it's just so fucking hypocritical and just so stupid. Like, I just do not understand these people and the people who admire them. Like, no, Eric, you should have cared about fascism a long fucking time ago. Like, almost 2 fucking years ago. And then Suzanne, who canceled her Disney subscription, literally the least I can do. Like, literally the least you can do, Suzanne, is to fucking condemn a genocide. Like, that's literally the least you can do. Like, where the fuck were these people talking about fascism and condemning the, the clamping down on free speech when it was pro-Palestinian activists who were getting arrested and threats of deportation and getting expelled from universities left and right, and all of this happening? Where the fuck were these people, and were they talking about that? No, not at all. Like, we've been seeing this for 2 fucking years happening. For 2 fucking years, people like me have been saying that, there is going to be consequences for everyone if you don't speak up for the people who are getting arrested right now for speaking against Zionism, for speaking against Israel. Like, these people did not fucking care about all of the anti-genocide protesters who were getting arrested and expelled and losing their jobs left and right. And now they fucking care. Now they fucking care when it's someone that they care about, this white dude losing his show, when they didn't fucking care when, people who were speaking out against the genocide were losing their jobs and getting canceled and getting arrested. Like, it's just so fucking unbelievable. No, it's actually not fucking unbelievable, because these people have shown their true colors to us already. Like, they literally do not care about Arab or Palestinian lives or Muslim lives. Like, they literally do not care. They have shown you they do not care. They are fucking assholes. Like, they're just fucking Zionist sellouts and shills. Like, it's just so fucking infuriating. And then another thing that just totally infuriated me was this one content creator who I've mentioned before, Kareem, board game minimalist. So I've mentioned him on my channel before. He is this Arab Muslim content creator who has never liked me. Even before I was problematic and before I was dangerous in 2021, he never liked me. Like, I had tried reaching out to him, I tried tweeting at him, tried becoming friends with him. He had no interest whatsoever in talking to me. And again, I've already theorized as to why that is. It's either because I'm a Muslim female content creator and he doesn't like how outspoken I am as a Muslim female, or it's because I'm a Shia Muslim and he is ignorant and believes that Shias are non-Muslims, which a lot of non-Shia Muslims believe, and they are just really fucking ignorant. So whatever. So it could be one of those 2 reasons I am theorizing. So he is the asshole who accepted Rodney Smith's really utterly bullshit statement in November 2023 when he was like, oh, I'm losing followers. And then Rodney made a video directed to him. Oh, Kareem, I'm so sorry you're losing followers. I can't speak about it because I have this internal battle going on, but I admire you for speaking about it. And it was just a complete non-statement. It was just a complete utter bullshit statement that said absolutely nothing. It didn't say anything of substance. It was just complete nonsense, and Kareem ate it up, retweeted it, thanked Rodney. So many people retweeted it as though Rodney said the most amazing, profound thing when he literally didn't say shit. And in the end, all he literally did was make excuses for himself as to why he yet hasn't condemned the genocide, but he's sorry Kareem is losing followers. It was complete utter bullshit, which is exactly what Rodney is. Like, this just shows what Rodney is. And this is what people like me have known about Rodney for a long fucking time. He will not talk about something unless it's absolutely safe for him to do so, which is why he talked about, the trans issue, and he talked about Black Lives Matter, and he talked about the new Codenames Harry Potter game, blah blah blah. And then I showed in a few weeks ago how he retweeted something to justify his silence about the genocide, but unfortunately Rodney is just really stupid, and he retweeted something from someone who is very anti-genocide, and the quote that he retweeted was actually about people like Rodney, people who were staying silent about the genocide and are going to one day claim that they were always against it. But Rodney, in his stupid mind, thought that, oh, it's for people like him who have stayed silent about the genocide. Like, this is how stupid people like Rodney are and lack critical thinking skills. So anyway, Kareem made a post on TikTok. For those of us who've been screaming about Gaza for the past 2 years, many pushed back by saying it wasn't relevant to board games because the issue wasn't related to a specific game or its content. But then we could apply that to the recent boycott of CGE because of the Harry Potter author. So now we have established that the attitudes, words, beliefs of designers, IP creators, and publishers could indeed be relevant to board game purchases. But then we see most board games and big voices in the industry completely ignoring the issue of Gaza or related boycotts. Ultimately, I can't help see it as anything but hypocritical, where these big voices in board gaming take political action based on the periphery of board games themselves, but ignore arguably the most pertinent issue of injustice and abuse in recent world affairs. Now, I agree with the substance of what he has said here, because the substance that Kareem stated here is true. What he said is true. However, what he did not say, one thing he didn't say is true, is that he's been screaming about Gaza for the past 2 years. Kareem, when he joined Blue Sky, decided to keep politics out of Blue Sky. So he used to talk about it on X, on Twitter, but then he joined Blue Sky, and very, very rarely would he mention Palestine. I've never seen him even, talk about Zionism and how Zionism is the root cause of this genocide. And I see him continuing to support content creators who are showcasing games by Zionists. I think Kareem is a fucking idiot and, could do better. I really think he could do better. So I posted some replies to him, which he completely ignored. But since posting my replies to him, he actually came back and said some more stuff on Blue Sky, which I will just read right now, but I just need to log in 1 second. So he, again, then came back and was like, just basically making a few posts, kind of trying to, I think, just come to some kind of an understanding or, kind of make himself feel okay about the fact that people are not talking about Gaza, and, make himself feel okay about the fact that he continues to support these people who have remained silent about, the genocide. So, he again ignored my replies, but he posted this recently. Most people in the board game hobby probably don't care about your politics, nor do you likely care about theirs. A big reason I wanted to keep this account as apolitical as possible. I haven't succeeded 100%, but there is some merit to trying to create apolitical shelters in our lives. Firstly, genocide is not fucking political. And all these people that you are upset about not talking about the genocide are the same people who will tell you that human rights issues are not politics. So here he is now trying to justify their fucking silence. Dude, what the fuck are you doing? What the fuck is he doing? I think he just keeps on doing more damage to the cause every time he fucking opens his mouth. He irritates me beyond belief. And then he says in another tweet, an hour after that one, the board game hobby isn't some intersectional progressive solidarity or left-wing solidarity movement or left-wing party. It's made up of people from dramatically different backgrounds who primarily love cardboard games. Of course, that doesn't mean we can't hold the hobby to minimum standards of respect. Yes, it's true. It's not some intersectional progressive solidarity movement or left-wing party. In fact, I would, go as far to say is that the hobby is mostly right-wing people. I really feel that way after, even before Trump was voted in as president in the USA, just seeing all the different kinds of people and the things that they're posting, even the so-called liberals in this industry who have remained completely silent about the genocide. No, this is not some left-wing liberal hobby. It's for people who just happen to like playing games, and those people can be from whatever backgrounds, and a lot of them are fucking racist and bigoted. Then he also made another post. I try to use principles to guide me in life. You can even go back to the 10 Commandments if you like. For example, all human life has value. Everyone, even criminals, have inalienable human rights. Also, we should respect freedom of expression, including political expression. Whew, okay. And then he made another post where he quote tweeted himself, where he was talking about how people don't care about politics. A cynical view, probably yes, but one that's been arrived at through trial and error. Really, this dude is coming across as someone who's just trying to justify the people he likes, the silence of the people he likes, who he continues to support despite their silence, despite them showing him that they don't fucking care about Arab and Muslim lives. Like I said to Kareem in my reply to him, like, maybe you shouldn't have like eaten up Rodney's bullshit statement, but instead you were just so happy to get a statement from Rodney, the board game uncle, and be accepted by all these white people. Like, he's so like desperate for their acceptance. Like, that's what it comes across to me as. Someone who just wants to be one of them, someone who wants to be accepted by them and seen as one of them, that he is willing to, you know, become a sellout in a lot of ways. And I do think he's a fucking sellout. Like, on the one hand, 1 day ago or 2 days ago, you're really upset that no one's talking about Gaza. Then you come back 2 days later and are like, oh, well, actually, you know, I tried to keep it apolitical, but here's why, you know, I failed, but I think it's a good idea to keep it apolitical, and, you know, just kind of making excuses for why people have been silent. Like, it's just fucking bullshit. Like, this dude is just so fucking lost, I think, and just, yeah, it's just, and he just angers me because, like, I am someone who's consistently been against the genocide, is consistently calling people out for supporting Zionists in this fucking industry, is consistently calling out the hypocrisy in this industry. And here is someone who, if he really truly cares, I think should actually kind of be on my side, but he's not, because he's hated me even since before I became problematic. Because again, either because I'm an outspoken Muslim woman and people don't like outspoken Muslim women who just, you know, really just aren't like, you know, silenced or just weak and whatever. Even white people, like, that's a thing. Like, it really is a thing that white people will like a Muslim woman or a woman of color when she seems weak and it seems like she needs these white people and needs their allyship and needs them in some way to kind of stand up for her. But the second you show that you don't fucking need them, then you become a problem in their eyes, because you might actually end up showing how they're actually not fucking good allies. Like, they really are not fucking good, true allies. And that's what I've shown since 2021, that these loud voices in this industry who claim to be all about diversity, equity, and inclusion are fucking terrible allies to Muslims and Arabs and people of Middle Eastern descent. They are not fucking good allies to those people. And yeah, so they're just a bunch of fucking hypocrites, and Kareem just keeps on, you know, undoing the work that I'm doing, and he just irritates me beyond belief. So yeah, so fuck him, fuck, you know, all the people like Eric Lang and Suzanne Sheldon and Our Family Plays Games. I'm gonna say it every week because I just need to vent, and I'm just so fucking sick of all of these people. But yeah, like, people getting upset about Jimmy Kimmel being canceled, but, you know, people like me have been saying all along, like, you know, it's gonna happen to you. Like, you may not care that it's happening to Arabs or people who are protesting the genocide, but sooner or later it's gonna come and bite you in the ass. And now it is. And it's biting you in the ass, and it's gonna get worse. It's gonna get fucking worse. But, you know, what can you do? You can just keep on speaking up, and eventually these people are gonna have to get to the point where they fucking condemn the genocide. I would like to see them hold out, you know, they can continue holding out for as long as possible, not condemning the genocide, not condemning Zionism, not boycotting Zionists, but it's becoming more and more apparent how connected everything is. And if it's still not apparent to them, then they really are that fucking stupid. You know, I've shown week after week how these people truly are just fucking stupid, and they lack, you know, critical thinking skills. And they prove that week after week after week. But sooner or later, I think it should become apparent to them how everything is connected. Yeah, so this country is a shit show, and yeah, and, you know, our free speech rights are definitely going away. Are, you know, there's all these talks about, you know, taking away citizenship and from people who are, you know, voice their opinions against Israel. You know, day by day, you know, more and more legislation is being introduced that, you know, would strip away the rights of so many Americans who were born in this country too, just because they are critical of Israel. And what was that one quote by this one famous thinker who said, to see who controls you, see who you can't speak out against. To see, it was something along those lines. If I can find the quote, I'll post it up here. But to know who is controlling you, find out, like, see who you cannot actually speak out against. We cannot speak out against Israel. And if you don't fucking realize that this is the United States of Israel, you are just fucking stupid. And there are so many stupid people in this industry. Like, I'm just so sick of the stupid people. Like, I really hate stupid people. I really, really do. Anyway, so that is my rant of the week. I'm just tired. I'm so fucking tired. So let's move on. So before we get to the question of the week, I'm not sure that there will be a video next week because next weekend I'm going away to a friend's cottage at the Thousand Islands in New York, which I'm really excited about. I haven't been there since I was a little kid. So I'm going there for a gaming weekend. So I'm not sure if I'll get back in time on Sunday to shoot a video or not. So there's a chance that next week there might not be another video. So now for the questions of the week. So I have a few questions and they're not related to any specific mechanic or theme or anything like that. The first question is, how do you decide which games to cull? The second question is, have you culled games that you paid for but never played? Because that's something I'm going to have to do, but it's really something that is kind of hard to do because I know I might lose some money on those games, and that's kind of making me feel really bad. If you've done that, just let me know how you end up making yourself feel okay about losing money on games that you've never played, but you've decided that you need to cull just because they're never getting played. And the third question is, if you are culling games and selling games, where do you sell them? Please give me suggestions other than Board Game Geek Marketplace because I'm banned from selling on there because of my political views. It's not because I did something to someone. It's literally because of my views and the videos I make on this channel. So yeah, so I can't sell on Board Game Geek Marketplace. So if you can give me some other suggestions, that would be really appreciated. So until next time, bye.